Well, thank you, Moderator Lai, Sugi-in, Suzuki-sensei, Congressman Mr. Berra, my two colleagues, Legislator Ling and Legislator Luo. I think you did a better job than Legislator Wang. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'll focus my remarks on the changes and the continuity that the coming Biden administration may bring to the Taiwan Strait, something that Trump administration couldn't change, but something that President Trump has changed forever for this part of the world. First, continuity. Some basic policy guideline is still there. The One China policy based on Taiwan Relations Act 3 communiques and the 6 assurances will remain. Although at the beginning, President Trump once cast some doubts on the necessity for the United States to uphold this policy that has been followed by 7 administrations since 1979. There are also some discussions upon whether the United States should replace the strategy of ambiguity with a strategy that is more clarified, which may mean to give Taiwan a more recognized position in the U.S. laws. However, as now we are approaching the end of Trump administration, we may conclude that the One China policy has not yet been changed. From a point of view, neither does the Taiwan Travel Act nor the Taipei Act deviate from the protocol that was set up by the Taiwan Relations Act 41 years ago. One may argue that this August, the Democrats deleted the term of One China policy in its party platform, in its party convention, making a significant difference from its 2016 version. But I would rather regard this as a campaign strategy against the Republicans. It doesn't really mean that the Democrats are ready to abandon the so-called One China policy, particularly not for President Biden. Antony Blinken, the announced Secretary of State, was the Deputy Secretary of State in charge of Taiwan affairs in Obama administration. He is an old hand. I don't expect to see a complete different Blinken in the coming administration. Instead, Mr. Blinken cherished the stability in the Taiwan Strait and encouraged the dialogue between Taiwan and Beijing. I will not be surprised, therefore, if he continues to do so when he returns to the State Department. The next thing is changes. The world is not the same for Biden in comparison with that of 4 years ago when he was still in the White House. The most significant change after Trump's presidency is the change of context, in which the United States, China, and Taiwan interact with each other. This context change is triggered by the rapid expansion of China's regional and global power, as well as by the retreat of ambition of the United States over the global and the regional affairs. To be honest, the credibility of the United States among its allies was decreased, more or less, at least in this region. So a new world ahead of President Biden is so mixed. He has to follow the path that the United States and China are in the course of a much stronger competition in all aspects. But in the meantime, he also needs to win back a stronger leadership in global and regional affairs by a so-called established foreign policy. Therefore, what we may expect to see in the US-China-Taiwan triangle for the future, I will have 3 speculations. The first, on the US-China side, I would speculate a more moderate US-China relations. The tension, mostly accumulated in the past 2 years, may be eased to a significant degree. There is a clear message given by Biden in the interview with Fryman on the New York Times last week, in which he said, "The best China strategy is one which gets every one of our allies on the same page." Yes, on the same page, which is the most important message. It implies a multilateral approach, which will accommodate interest for all allies, and also which cannot be a very confrontational approach, like that of the Trump administration. I think Congressman Berra also mentioned this point in his video clip earlier. Actually, Biden has made this point clear. earlier in March in his article published on Foreign Affairs. Following the same logic, Tony Blinken just denied the scenario of decoupling with China in a recent interview with Reuters. He said, trying to fully decouple with China, and some have suggested, is unrealistic and ultimately counterproductive. It would be a mistake. Likewise, Jack Sullivan, who will be the new National Security Advisor to President Biden, also wrote an article on Foreign Affairs in September. He argued that the Cold War analogy is ill-fitting because he said, to compare with the Soviet Union, China is more formidable economically, more sophisticated diplomatically, and more flexible ideologically. And unlike the Soviet Union, China is deeply integrated into the world and intertwined with the US economy. In accordance, we may summarize Biden's China policy as following: no decoupling, no Cold War, competition with cooperation at the same time. These policy guidelines would justify a more moderate US-China relations, which will be a mixture of containment and engagement. In this case, followed by second speculation. In terms of the US-Taiwan relations, under a more moderate US-China context, Biden's administration will need to see a much stable Taiwan Strait. It means that, unlike Trump, President Biden may not play a Taiwan card in order to provoke Beijing. Instead, Biden's established diplomats may return to its traditional position, that is to encourage a constructive dialogue between Taipei and Beijing. For them, after all, there are already lots of confrontation between Washington and Beijing to deal with. Taiwan is not necessarily to be stuck in the middle. Following this assumption, my last speculation is that, back to the China-Taiwan relations, a confrontational approach that President Tsai Ing-wen has adopted for the past 2 years may lose its support from the United States. The new context in the geopolitics of this region will require her to return to a more moderate China policy, in which she will have to resume an efficient channel of dialogue that President Ma Ying-jeou has established years ago, by any means, so that a certain degree of the so-called status quo may be restored. Up on this point, I think I just echo what Mr. Suzuki just said at the beginning. The peace, stability, and status quo serve for all interests for the United States, Japan, and Taiwan. In conclusion, 3 points I just raised today. First, a more moderate US-China relations. Second, a much lower-key US-Taiwan relations. And the third, a Taiwan-China relations in need to return to the status quo. And let's wait and see. Thanks for your attention. Thank you.